Hope I dialed the right number.
Dello Stritto talking about movies.
Oh, I dialed the right number?
You dialed the right number, Joe. I just wasn't expecting you for 10 minutes, but that's fine.
Outstanding. Well, we had Barbara Harris of the Toys on.
Okay?
And Buzzy Linhart. You know who Leslie Uggams is?
I know who Leslie Uggams is.
She's going to be MC in the show 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
So I will be with Leslie Uggams. I won't be here 2 weeks from tonight on February 6th.
Okay, is she going to call me?
No, she's going to be at the Apollo Theater in New York.
Okay. You got me nervous, Joe.
No, could that be funny if Leslie, well, you know, the people I'm involved with just called up Leslie and she said she'd do it, and that's kind of like the music biz, isn't it?
Okay, so she'll be co-hosting with you.
No. I'm not hosting at all. I'm just...
She'll be a guest host.
In my other life, I'm a record producer, and so my artist is at the Apollo.
Okay.
With Dionne Warwick. You might have heard of Dionne Warwick.
I've heard of Dionne Warwick. I've heard of Leslie Uggams.
You heard of Lulu?
I've heard of Lulu.
Those schoolgirl days.
Well, I've heard of Leslie Uggams because she sang Give Me That Old Time Religion in the opening of Inherit the Wind with Frederick Martin and Spencer Tracy. So that is, well over 50 years ago, but that's where I first heard her.
Now, was she in Batman at all?
No, Eartha Kitt was one of the Catwomen.
There was three of them.
There was Eartha Kitt, there was Julie Newmar, and there was the one that was a Miss America.
Yeah, I got Eartha and Julie. It's the third one I keep forgetting.
I can look it up. I mean, Meredith something or something Meredith. She was a Miss America. Wait, Lee Merriwell.
Yes.
Lee Merry something.
Merriweather.
Lee Merriweather. She was Barnaby Jones's daughter, secretary or something like that, and she was also, I think, the third of the Batwomen. She was the Batwoman that was in the feature film version they made from the TV series. Ah,
very good.
It is very good. I'm surprised I remember that.
So, Leslie Uggams.
Okay.
I'll have to do. I certainly know who she is. I have to see if she ever did Sunny or anything. But she's going to be there. It's going to be fun.
That's great. Well, ask her about singing Old Time Religion in 1960.
Well, she's the MC, so she can do probably what she wants. But
what she wants, and you'll be there.
Yeah, it's a benefit concert for the New York City Food Bank.
Okay.
And each star does one song and does a Beatles song.
And this is 2 weeks from tonight.
Right, so because the Beatles appeared on Ed Sullivan on February 7th. So this is the eve of the Beatles flying in. They probably flew in that night, landed in America, you know.
Oh, yeah, I remember. That's 50 years. So that's the 50th anniversary.
Right, so it's a whole week of concerts at the Apollo Theater, and this is the first.
All
on
right.
the Thursday, probably goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe Monday. I don't know.
I read that for their 3 appearances on the Ed Sullivan show, the Beatles were paid a total of $10,000.
Not bad.
I don't know if that's true. Not bad for Sullivan, but I don't know if that's true, but this number is shockingly small these days.
Yeah, but for the amount of pandemonium it caused,
yeah,
you play for free for that. Because the records they sold after appearing on Sullivan is incalculable.
That's true, but for the ratings Sullivan had,
right.
I mean,
right,
paid more.
Well, it was a win-win. It was a win-win. They both made it on, the back end, if you will.
Yep.
So we missed the movie last week, but it wasn't Hercules, right?
It was Hercules Unchained, I was told.
Last week?
Last week, Steve Reeves, and tonight is Hercules Against the Moon Men. 1964, though it didn't reach the United States until 1965.
Ooh.
And it was Steve Reeves is not in this. Steve Reeves only played Hercules twice, in 1957s or 58s, depending on whether you're going on release date or production date. Hercules, and then Hercules Unchained. And these were enormous hits, thanks to 2 men. One is Steve Reeves, because he... Now, I will say this, when you watch these, what became known as the Sword and Sandals movies, but which we knew as the Italian Muscle Man movies, because most of them came from Italy. These guys look like human beings pumped up. where Steve Reeves looked like a god. I mean, his physique was just incredible, and it seemed so natural to him. And so he was a reason for success, and the other reason was the man who imported them to the America, Joseph E. Levine, who was a producer, but he was also he knew how to work the publicity machines, and the build-up for these movies was incredible. And it reached even to me in my little 8- and 9-year-old world that I couldn't wait to see them when they came. I saw the commercials, I'd see the ads in the paper. I couldn't wait for it to come to my local theater. And of course, the theaters were jammed with boys just like me to see these. So these were a big thing. And this was a kickoff to the Sword and Sandals movies, what we call the Italian Muscle Man movies. And then they just came out in a quick procession after that. The genre or the subgenre or a new term I just heard last week, the micro-genre.
Okay, I've not heard that yet.
Not bad, huh? And so I guess it lasted in total about 10 years from 1958 with Hercules until it petered out in the late 60s. But by the mid 60s, it was in decline. And Steve Reeves only played Hercules in those first two movies. Then he moved over to. He made similar movies, but not as Hercules. And personally, I wish he had stayed with Hercules because basically all the movies he made, the plots would have easily been Hercules movies. And he was basically playing Hercules because while he was a great screen presence and he was very good as Hercules, he didn't have much range. So I would just as soon he played Hercules in all them. And if you list the people that are the top 10 actors that have played Hercules the most times, I don't even think Steve Reeves is on it because he only did it twice. The star of tonight's show, who was known in the West as Alan Steele, but actually his name was Sergio Ciani.
Okay.
Well, a lot of the actors in Italian and Mexican movies, basically movies trying to break into the American market, adopted Western names to make them more sayable, if nothing else. And so there were movies where when you went to the movies and you saw the cast list play, nobody had their real names in there. That's not true of this movie. After you get past Alan Steele, Sergio Ciani, you get down to a bunch of Italian-sounding names. I guess the evil queen of the movie is played by an actress who went by the name of Janie Claire, and that's a stage name, but she was French.
What? No Zsa Zsa Gabor, huh?
No Zsa Zsa Gabor. She was busy playing the Queen of Outer Space.
But she wasn't the Queen of Outer Space, was she?
No. No, that's right. She was not the Queen of Outer Space. The Queen of Outer Space, I forget who played it. Zsa Zsa Gabor was one of her handmaidens, I guess, but she had the biggest role in the movie. But I forget who played the Queen of Outer Space.
Everyone thinks that Zsa Zsa played it because the title and Zsa Zsa were like the two enormous names.
Well, just like everybody thinks William Powell was the Thin Man, though he's not the Thin Man.
Well, I have a question about the sword and sandal movies, Italian muscle men, and then we have the term spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
So these terms seem to be indicators of Italian or Mexican movies, right?
Yeah.
Were there other terms like this, and why did these particular movies get these catchphrases?
Well, the Italian muscle man movies mainly came from Italy. Now, I think if you added them all up, very few of the muscle men in them were Italian. Steve Reeves wasn't. Sergio Ciani, Alan Steele was, but he was. Gordon Scott, after he left Tarzan, went over and made some muscle man movies. Name that comes to mind is Brad Harris. He made muscle man movies. These were all bodybuilders who went over to Italy, and at the time.
This is way before Arnold Schwarzenegger got the idea to be a muscle builder and a film star.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger was born in the late 40s. He's a little bit older than me, I think. So he's born in the late 40s. So he might well have taken inspiration from some of these, but he was just barely in his teens when these were in their glory.
It's a good point because maybe it is his inspiration.
Well, I think he's paid some homage to Steve Reeves.
Good.
But I'm not sure of that, so I don't want to be quoted on that.
From Hercules to the Terminator, your fifth book.
I haven't published a third one yet.
I know. That's why I put it up at the fifth, so you got time.
Okay.
From Hercules to the Terminator.
The terms catch on, so
It's a good title.
The spaghetti westerns. Again, they it started with the the Clint Eastwood movies. And after World War II, movie production was so much cheaper in Europe than America. The American studios started making more films in Italy. I mean, but more films in Europe, and the Mediterranean, because it had the weather and all that, became a favorite spot for them. And so you see a lot of Italian-made movies simply because the production costs could be so low. And like always happens, if you make a few movies in a location, they start building up the infrastructure, which is so important to any industry. And pretty soon they could make movies. So I guess the heyday of Italian movie production was passing, but I associate it mainly with the 50s. But and I'd have to look at some films and when they were made and where they were made, et cetera, et cetera. But my instincts are telling me the scene was shifting from Italy by then. But the Italian Muscle Men certainly gave I don't know if it's second life or prolonged the first life, but these were big international hits for these companies. So that's where they got rooted. Most of these Italian Muscle Men movies are set in the classical era, and you could find sets that look like that. And whether you're actually using an old ruin, which happens sometime, or you build a set, well, you can use that set in 20 movies once you've made the investment to build it.
So they could do it at the Coliseum.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you would be allowed to film at the Coliseum. You might be allowed to. I don't know. When you see
Just guessing.
They look pretty good. So I said, well, either they had the money to build a set, or they found an ancient site that they could use. So that made it, just made it logical, and they had the mill churning them out. So let's see. This is unique among the Hercules movies. And our star tonight, Alan Steele, Sergio Ciani, played Hercules 4 or 5 times. He played Samson twice. In the first Hercules movies, he was a body double for Steve Reeves. So some of the stunts and some of the from behind shots are actually Alan Steele and not Steve Reeves. And like a lot of the Muscle Men, when the spaghetti westerns took hold, he ended his career making westerns.
Oh, so he switched the genres. So bringing up spaghetti westerns wasn't all that
No, it was not
strange.
A non sequitur, Joe.
Yeah.
And
good.
Haven't used that word in a while.
Yeah,
And,
I haven't heard it in a while.
I mean, you had all these muscle men who had worked in Italy, and all of a sudden they weren't making muscle men movies anymore, but they were making westerns. And these guys, if you put a Stetson on them, they could look pretty tough. So.
Cowboy workout. Where were the barbells in the West? The Wild West.
Yeah. Well, actually, the action scenes in some of these movies were hard on American actors because there was much more emphasis on safety and filming in America than in some of the overseas locations.
I would imagine.
And some of these fights could get pretty raw, so you had to be careful. Who was it? Ed Burns, who played Kooky on 77 Sunset Strip. He made a couple of movies in Italy, and I remember that I read an interview with him. I'm pretty sure, I'm thinking back, where he said, these guys would get a little carried away. You had to watch. You had to be able to defend yourself if you got in a fist fight with them on camera.
I got a couple of questions. Joseph E. Levine, was he involved in this particular movie?
No, not to my knowledge. When Joseph E. Levine, for whom I have a lot of respect, because making money in the movies is not easy, he was not a shy man. So if he had something to do with the movie, I think his name would be all over it. I think he and I haven't checked this. I think he and Steve Reeves stayed close, so he would. Which means the company that made the movie in Italy, Joseph E. Levine, would import it. So, that's all. That was his role in these movies, was bringing them to America, and getting the publicity mill churning. So that's why I don't think he ever produced one of those movies, but he brought them to America, and where he became known for his promotional campaigns. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking it up now. He wasn't only doing sword and he did Sword and Sandals and Italian Muscle Men movie. He actually brought 2 women. The film that won Sophia Loren her Academy Award, was brought to America by Joseph E. Levine. So
which was?
Two Women is the name of the movie, 1961.
Don't remember it.
You and I wouldn't have watched it at our age, but it's not a movie for kids in 2 senses. One is it's mainly adults talking to each other, and it's, and suffering and all that, and we wouldn't have held our attention.
Nope.
Secondly, there was a rape scene in it, which at
Yikes.
the time was considered quite risque.
Yikes.
And I think it was trimmed for a lot of places that showed it in America. It was trimmed.
Well, I'm sure when I was in Catholic school, I'm sure it was on the condemned list from the pilot.
It might have been. I mean,
Every week we would watch the condemned list. They would post it on the chalkboard like 9-year-olds are going to go to a movie, right?
Yeah.
The condemned list from
watch those lists. The best way to get people to go see a movie is to condemn it.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, please condemn my movie Pilot. Pilot magazine is put out by the Catholic Church.
I remember 2 women did play on television sometime in the late 60s, and I think they cut out the rape scene.
Well, I would think you'd have to.
And that's the only time I've seen the movie. So I for anybody that's listening that knows more than I do, I apologize because I am talking through my hat a bit. But we got into Joseph E. Levine, so well, he brought a lot of movies over. One of them was Godzilla, which
Did he put Raymond Burr in Godzilla?
he might have.
Well, you know what's coming out next year, right?
Yeah, there's another one coming
Yet
out.
another Godzilla, people. It's picked as one of the top 10 movies of 2014. So we just had one in the 90s.
Yeah, we had one the late 90s with.
Yeah, it was kind of,
I think,
Matthew Broderick.
yeah, I think it's okay at the box office. I thought it was an atrocious movie. And
It was pretty pitiful.
okay, now I'm trying to. It's coming back to me. Joseph E. Levine was the man behind Embassy Pictures. Embassy Pictures that brought a lot of these over, and one of them was Godzilla. And whether Joseph E. Levine actually said, "Let's strip out all the Japanese footage, put in Raymond Burr," I don't know.
And now, I'm just guessing because I don't have my computer in front of me. Was he working with The Graduate and maybe Rosemary's Baby?
No, see, Rosemary's Baby was the schlockmeister behind Rosemary's Baby was William Castle.
Okay, got it.
And The Graduate, I think The Graduate was kind of top draw. I don't think there was any promotional genius behind that. It made it on its own.
Ah, interesting, yeah. But those were interesting times. I'd love to have a time machine and go back,
Yeah, I'd like to go back because I'm writing a book on the movies I grew up with, and there's no existing record of what played at the Saturday matinees at the theater I went to.
Whoa.
Because often the newspapers didn't tell you what was playing at the Saturday matinee, because basically, see, anyone who's not our age won't remember what we mean, won't know what we mean when we say Saturday matinee. Saturday matinees was basically a way to get boys 8 to 12 off the streets.
And that is how we conclude our show tonight. It's Thursday night, Saturday matinee. Thursday night matinee is over.
Okay, talk to you next week, Joe.
Thanks, Frank. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Views and opinions of Visual Radio are mine and my guests. So no one else's, just mine and my guests, Joe Vig. Reeling is up next. Reeling, thank you to Sean O'Brien. Thank you to Anthony Gamari for pulling out the movies. Thank you, WinCam. Good night.